Hello, everyone. Today is March 6th, 2025, and this is my fifth update during my journey with squamous cell carcinoma, or cancer of the throat. Today marks the 27 of 30 radiation treatments and 5 of 6 chemo treatments. However, got some good news today that I am done with my chemo treatments and that I don't have to do my 6th treatment next Tuesday. However, I did joke with the doctor, not really joking on my part. He thought it was probably a joke, but I did tell him that I'd prefer to do 4 or 5 chemo treatments and be done with radiation, mainly just because I feel like most of the damage that's going on and the side effects that I'm feeling are from the radiation. However, I do know that the accumulation of the 5 additional chemo treatments that I've undergone has played a role, especially in the last week and a half, as things have just accumulated and added up. I feel like the radiation, just with all the side effects as far as just the pain, really, the blisters and the sores and lack of appetite due to that. I'd rather do chemo at this point, just be done with radiation so my body could just start the healing process right now. So I know it's still a long road. Next Tuesday will be my last radiation, so just 3 more to go. Spoke with the doctor this morning, and she said that it's going to be another 1 to 2 weeks before I just kind of start turning the corner. Things in my throat start feeling like they're getting a little bit better. Taste buds start coming back. Thick saliva starts to lessen. So really about a month, 2 months, even 3 months before I feel a significant change in my health and recovery. However, I'm not trying to look that far down the road. I still am focusing on one day at a time. And that's just how I need to do things to just keep my mind focused on positive things. Just, again, getting through every day and not looking too far down the road. Probably one of the biggest side effects that I've felt the past week and a half is constipation. I thought I was on a pretty good routine with waiting till about 5 o'clock. Then I'll take my anti-nausea medication, take a couple teaspoons of liquid morphine. That would get me through the rest of the night and to the next morning. However, that was causing some severe constipation, and it was about 4 or 5 days before I had a bowel movement. For those who've experienced severe constipation, it's very, very painful, and it was worse pain than I'm even feeling in my throat, and I'm probably at about a 7.5, 8 in my throat when I swallow. However, I felt like it was worth it to have pain up here than to have the pain of being constipated, so I stopped taking the morphine. I stopped taking the anti-nausea medications. The only medications I did continue to take was a dexamethasone, just 2 tablets 2 days after my chemo, which I'm done with now at this point after today. And then I just started pounding anti-constipation medications, Miralax, stool softeners. My wife just went to the pharmacy and just got me whatever she could, and within probably 48, 72 hours, I was finally able to get some relief. Man, I was so thankful for. It was pretty bad. And when things hit you physically, just to where you have just no control of how to manage it, just things mentally get a lot more difficult as well, and so it's just not a good place to be. So once I was able to get on top of that, and first just figure it out that the morphine was and this nausea medication was really causing the constipation. So once I figured that out, it was just an easy decision just to kind of stop doing that and just focus on getting rid of this constipation. Now probably about 4 or 5 days into no pain medication, and I'm fine. I'm not having withdrawals or anything. I was only taking it for about 4 or 5 days, and so I think I'm fine. The pain is there, but I can handle it. And, you kind of get used to it and kind of know what to expect, so it's not as bad. But I think now I have a better routine. If I do need to get back on the pain medication, I just really need to focus on preventing constipation and just double up on my efforts in that area. Another side effect, probably in the last week, has just been coughing. Just severe coughing, just kind of comes out of nowhere. It comes out more at night. Sitting up slightly, just being elevated kind of helps to minimize that, as well as just some over-the-counter cough medicine. Just help to suppress the cough a little bit. Sneezes, those are horrible. I try not to do those at any cost. A cough is more manageable because I can kind of suppress it, but when you have to sneeze, that thing just comes out in full force, and it just feels like it's just tearing layers off your throat. So the cough syrup, that burns severely going down the throat just because of all the open sores, but you just follow that up with some water. And better to have a little pain than to have a cough. So there you go. That's a real life example of how coughing kind of can just come on, and it's pretty painful. I continue to have very thick saliva. Just kind of sits on the back of your tongue. Very difficult to kind of get rid of. It's hard to kind of clear your throat, or, when you have phlegm and you can kind of go, and kind of get that out. My tongue isn't cooperating at 100% right now. It's probably at about 60%. So there's just certain things that just normally were very easy for me to do, is to clear my throat and get phlegm up. Where now any time those kind of movements or functions are just a lot more difficult. A friend of mine had suggested this, and that was to use Coca-Cola as a mouthwash. I was pretty skeptical at first, but I decided I didn't have a lot to lose, so I tried it, and it's pretty great. You don't take very much, just a little bit in the mouth, and it kind of just fizzes up, and it feels like it's just kind of peeling away at all these, loose skin and sores that are in my mouth, and it does offer some relief as well. And then you just kind of swish it around, and when you spit, there's definitely some foreign objects in there that's not in the coke, but from your mouth it just looks like skin, just maybe a little burnt tissue, or it's kind of gross, but it does offer a lot of relief as well. And then I just follow that up with the baking soda and the salt water, because I just don't want all that sugar sitting in my mouth. And then I brush my teeth as well. I do that twice a day, as well as continue to put the ice packs on my neck 3 times a day for 30 minutes each time. And I really feel like that's helping a lot, and just healing things that I can't see from the inside out, and just minimizing possible side effects down the road. Last week I was pretty stoked about, getting on my routine, but I've since learned that, your daily routine only works about 30% of the time. I think it's a good thing to have some type of structure and a plan, but that same plan isn't going to work every day. That kind of just sets you up for being a little bit disappointed, when you feel like you have a good routine, and then something like the constipation happens. There's always just something that just affects another thing, and you have to constantly change. And so I think the best thing to do during this process is just to have a very open mind, and be very open to change on a daily basis, sometimes on a hourly basis. Have a plan for sure, have goals, have little milestones to reach, but just be realistic with them, and just be ready to change and adjust when needed. I think that's a big takeaway for me for the last week and a half, and it's been a good lesson to learn. There's a saying that says, if you want to make God laugh, then tell him your plans. I don't think God laughs at our plans in a way like, ha, I told you so. But, I think a lot of times we make plans, just about our life, of what our purpose is. And, we kind of look at the trajectory where it's going, and we think, okay, we've got this figured out, and, we're exactly where we need to be. And we think because of certain talents or abilities that we've given, and the way that we're using them in the right way and in the right purpose that God has intended. And so a lot of times we just think, okay, we've got this figured out. Definitely the direction that I need to be heading. I found, and not just through this journey, but I found that in my life, that God wants us definitely to make plans for our lives and use our talents and abilities the best way that we can to serve others. But I also think that his plan and his idea of how we get there is a lot different. I definitely know that I don't plan my life in a way of looking at all the struggles and obstacles that I'm going to have to face along the way to get there. I look at my path, and it's definitely not a straight line, but it's one that has a lot less obstacles along the way and trials. God's plan is more straight and narrow. There's a lot more challenges and trials, and they're all for our good. They're all teachable moments, and I just can't stress enough that I hope that I'm not missing any of those lessons that he's trying to teach me through this process. It's really hard to notice them when mentally and physically you're at your lowest, but I have such an amazing support from my wife and my family. It gets me back on track and keeps me focused on the purpose, and keeps me focused that this isn't my new normal forever. There's better days ahead and that there's good things to come. And so that is my update for this week. And just want to remind all of you that there's strength in numbers, and together we will all beat this. Have a great week. See you next time. Peace.